Thanks for joining us for This Week in Odyssey, where subscribers to Odyssey, the print MIS for marketing ideas for printers, can discover what's new in Odyssey and learn about the best practices to use Odyssey to its fullest. Let's get started.
All right, well, welcome to Marketing Ideas for Printers This Week in Odyssey webinar. We normally meet at noon Central Time, so thank you to those that made it to today's webinar at a later time. This is episode number 17, if anyone is wanting to know how many Odyssey webinars have occurred to date. We will be presenting these webinars every other Wednesday morning, except for today, unfortunately, so I do apologize again. Please note the webinar occurs at 9 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. This bi-weekly webinar focuses on release notes, any noteworthy bug fixes, a few tips and tricks here and there, anything and everything you'd want to know about Odyssey. Today's episode, I'll be going over a very helpful, very useful feature that has been put in place in Odyssey and within the control center of your website. And be sure to stick around until the end, as I have a few things to mention regarding the forward momentum of Odyssey. So to start out with today's webinar, I'm going to go over the help menu. I know we may have some new folks that come on. For those of you that have seen this before and again, you know, this is mainly for those that maybe haven't been on before. They're just jumping in the middle of one of these. We have a help menu in the upper right next to the search bar of the magnifying glass. When you click on the help menu, you have three options. Clicking on View Odyssey Documentation takes us to our Odyssey user guide. And a note about that is we've recently had quite a few updates that have been put into the user guide. There's been a couple sections added, such as booklet order forms, if you want to know about global questions in Odyssey, a couple different resources that hadn't been added before in here, little changes here and there. So there's been quite a bit of updates. So at your leisure, you could certainly go through here, but I feel that we have a lot more information. There's going to be continuing to be more information added to this living guide. So just like a lot of things, it's going to be growing as time goes on, as we have new features, as we have new things that are added to Odyssey, they will be added to this user guide. But just recently, in the past, I would say 5 days or so, there have been quite a few updates put in here. All the links should be resolving to their correct places if you want to reference other parts of the user guide. So I would say feel free to take a look at that if you have a question and we're not available, or you're wanting to kind of go through on your own and try and learn something. The Odyssey documentation or the Odyssey user guide would be a great place to start. The second link under the help section is the Odyssey release notes. And clicking on that, just what it says, Odyssey release notes. Every 2 weeks, we put out some updates. If there's any noteworthy fixes and so forth, this is where you can find what's been going on in Odyssey. The last link here is open a support ticket. This takes you to the help center of your website, where you can ask a new question. It comes right into customer care. We get it right into our system and get back to you as soon as we can. So those are the three main sections under the help button here in the upper right of Odyssey. There's just a few fixes from the last 2-week cycle of our release updates that I wanted to mention. The first one, this is found when you are creating a new estimate, or if you want to update an existing one. I'm just going to act like I'm going to add a new one. There's a couple lists that you can choose from. There's a sales rep list, and there's a customer service rep list. And what had been happening is those two, for whatever reason, had the same list in them. We went through, made the update that was needed. And now as you're either updating an existing estimate or you're creating a new one, both of those lists are different now. So you should be able to pick if you do use the sales or the customer service rep list. Those should show as a little bit different, which they do. The other fix that I thought would be fairly important to mention is those that are in invoicing. Depending on what you needed to do for the invoice, some folks were wanting to put in some blank lines in the description and then add some more information and kind of space it out. Odyssey was not liking that with the blank line. We've we've updated that, so now if you have blank line, you have information, whatever the case might be in the description, that should be flowing smoothly for you now when creating an invoice. So those are just a couple of the more prominent fixes I just wanted to mention. All right, so back to, I'm going to go over one of our newest feature updates. We call it the Universal Nav Bar. You could call it a toolbar, you know, what have you. As you're in Odyssey in the upper left, you may or may not have noticed this icon to the left of the main Odyssey link up here. So if I click this, there's a drop down of 4 icons: Odyssey, Website Control Center, Direct Mail, and Social Marketing. What this is this gives you a quick and easy way to get to, say, I'm in Odyssey, I need to go to my Website Control Center. So if you click Website Control Center, you are taken to the back end of your website, to the Control Center. You can start going wherever you need to go to do whatever you need to do. Now, as you can see, I'm in my Control Center of my website. In the upper left, that universal navigation bar or toolbar, that is also present here. So you could navigate back to Odyssey from here. And I actually have my login over here. But you can do a one-to-one relationship between Odyssey and your Control Center. Let's say I want to go see what I am subscribed to for, say, direct mail. If I click on the direct mail link, or if you want to open a new tab, you can do this either way. Your version of the info center is opened up, and if you're subscribed to any direct mail packages, they do show up here with a download link. Now, being this is kind of like my sandbox site, I don't have anything actually that I am personally subscribed to, but those of you that would, you would see a green download link for any of them that you are subscribed to. If you're in your info center, again, this nav bar shows up in the upper left. You can go back to Odyssey, you can go back to your Control Center. Maybe you want to go to social marketing. This also takes you to a different location in your info center. If you are subscribed to social marketing, it'll display here what it is. If there's any content available for you to download or to view, you could also do that. If you wanted to route back to the Control Center of your website from the info center, you can certainly do that and select the Control Center, and you're taken right back. So between Odyssey and the Control Center, and if you're in your info center, which I was under direct mail or social marketing, you can pretty much access any areas of your website, Odyssey, your info center, just with the click of your mouse from the upper left here. Quite a very handy tool. We've had a couple printers asking if there was ever going to be something similar to this where they could navigate between the different parts of, you know, their website, and if they had Odyssey. And now we've implemented that. Seems to work quite well. So I feel, or I should say, give it a try, see what you think. You know, if you have any questions or updates or any comments about that, you could certainly get a hold of us and let us know what you think of that. So that was one of the more prominent feature updates that we had put out with our most recent release. So back to the comment I mentioned earlier about the forward momentum or vision of Odyssey. So our development team has been busy on the back end adjusting the various sections of Odyssey, similar to what I have previously shown with invoicing on a previous webinar. And I'll just quick show you. I don't have anything compare, but in the older versions of Odyssey a couple months ago, we did not have this left-hand side that was broken down into specific sections of, say, accounts receivable, purchasing, reports, your company. We didn't have a way to collapse this side like you see now. And then within each one of these sections, especially in accounts receivable, we've made some updates. Similar meaning, this look and layout made to this accounts receivable area to allow Odyssey to flow more seamlessly and make the navigation within the invoicing interface more intuitive and user-friendly. We're going to be taking a similar track with our reporting and marketing sections in Odyssey. So right now, our reporting section is reports, and if you click on this, it simply lists on the left all the reports that are available to Odyssey. If I go to marketing, which I did go over in our last webinar, what you see is what we have right now, no problem. We are in the process of updating both of these interfaces, making changes that will allow for a more intuitive, user-friendly, and seamless navigation within both the reporting and the marketing sections in Odyssey. And a little bit more about our updates that we put out there. We have some projects that fit within our 2-week development cycle, meaning every 2 weeks we're putting out smaller feature updates if we have any noteworthy bug fixes and things like that. That follows what we consider our every 2-week release cycle. A smaller update that would fit in would be something such as a while back, we had gone into our estimates or our estimating section, and we have alphabetized the resources that you would see here on the right-hand side under the form editor. So that's kind of a case of, okay, this is a little bit smaller feature update that was able to be rolled into one of our 2-week release cycles. Smaller updates such as this alphabetizing of resources would also fit into that 2-week release cycle. Other features, such as I was just mentioning, our accounts receivable interface, that was worked on over an entire quarter and therefore fits into our quarterly cycle, which is about 12 weeks versus our 2-week or every 2-week sprint cycle. So depending on how much is going to be added, changed, and so forth, our developers do a really good job of, okay, this is smaller, we can put in our 2-week cycle. This is going to be a big update. We're going to make sure we have all the necessary tools, features, everything that'll fit into more of a quarterly update. So circling back to the reporting and marketing section that I was referring to, be on the lookout for the user interface updates for both of those areas as part of this very quarterly cycle that we are in that actually ends later in April. We are on a path to make Odyssey bigger and better. The smaller updates, as I mentioned, will be released during our 2-week development cycles, and larger updates that could be similar to how we updated accounting and the accounts receivable. That type of work will be fitting into our quarterly development cycle. I'm excited to see what the future of Odyssey holds. And here, us at MI4P, we're also excited for Odyssey subscribers, which is you, to see these updates with us and see how those are going to be rolled out. So this I knew was going to be a little bit shorter of a webinar. Like I mentioned, there was that main update that we wanted to get out there about the universal nav bar. I wanted to go over about how we conduct our updates, whether they're smaller feature updates that are more frequent versus our larger updates that we're excited to push out later on this month, which would be later on during this Q1 quarterly cycle, when you're in marketing, when you're in scheduling, and that will be gone over in a future webinar. So I will definitely go over the updates that will be made to Odyssey as these features come about, because we want to highlight them, want to make sure people understand, not usually in the back end would something change per se. It's more of the interface, make it a little more intuitive, more user-friendly, and that sort of thing. I'm not going to say it's blogging the reports because the reports are there, but one way or another, our developers are going to change this area. Maybe it'll be broken down into sections depending on the type of reports and so forth. But we just encourage you to continue to be excited, and we look forward to seeing the updates that are coming from our development team. If you have any questions at all as a result of this webinar or of the updates that we have, you can certainly give us a call at our 1-800 number, 1-800-736-0688. You can always email us, customercare@mi4p.com. We always look forward to your comments, anything at all that you want to let us know about Odyssey as we go through updates and so forth. So with that, I just thank you for joining us during this edition of This Week in Odyssey. And just remember to stick around until the end for a quick survey. And thank you very much.
For those watching live, stick around for a 2-question survey. On behalf of the whole team at Marketing Ideas for Printers, thanks for joining us.